make sure you dig that ditch as Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. And so when you lie to rest, you're on your tombstone, there lies the greatest ditch digger ever the world has ever known. We take this to heart, and every day we preach to our people before we start. We did a good job. We got praises from project managers, architects, but you know what? That's all out the window now because this is a new day. We need to reprove ourselves again. So again, we're grateful to be here, and we're here because we're thorough, not because we're a minority.
Thank you, Mr. Henry.
Thank you.
All right, so looking at the board here, is there any other further comments, or do I have a motion to approve resolution 13-10-60 as presented?
So moved, Mr. President.
Have a motion?
Second.
I have a second. We might have a little more discussion on this. Any discussion on this one from any board members? I guess not. I guess I would just add that.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Having,
No, he's back in the back.
having worked at Intel off and on for years in another life, I know they're quite fussy. So you might, and that's an understatement. So if you can make Intel happy, you'll be a great asset for TriMet.
Thank you.
I guess I just want to add, I applaud again TriMet's work to look to breaking the contracts into smaller pieces. I think we can always second guess the process, the evaluation criteria, and all those things after we see the results. But I am comfortable moving forward on this because I think it's the right thing to do, and I think hopefully we'll learn more as we go on. So the next time we go out, we will be even more effective and efficient in terms of making sure we get the best folks, and again, do allow the work to be, everybody have the opportunity to participate and compete on a level playing field. So if there's no further questions, then I'd call for the vote. So all those in favor of the motion to approve resolution 13-10-60, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed?
There it is.
Did I do the wrong one?
Yeah, 61.
61, thank you very much. I have my page turned to the wrong one. So resolution 61. So again, everybody understood that's what they were voting on? All those opposed? Okay, did I hear you vote?
No. but
Okay.
I was waiting.
Waiting for an abstention?
No, I was gonna vote
Okay.
for it, but.
So
Make sure we're on the right one.
So let's go back up. Let's re-vote. Let's again call for vote on the motion to approve resolution 13-10-61, okay? Have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. I'm just having a rough time here, aren't I? Okay, so let's move on to resolution 13-10-62, which is authorizing a contract with Suburban Auto Group for the purchase of replacement service support vehicles. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Board President, members of the board, the budget for this year did finally begin to address the non-revenue vehicles that were continuing to grow older and older and older that support our overall operation. I did ask Shelley to send me some information about our overall non-revenue fleet. We don't just run buses and trains, but the vehicles that need to support those. All in all, TriMet has, thank you, Shelley, 230 support vehicles. 24 of those are heavy-duty maintenance trucks, 124 are maintenance vans and pickups, and 45 are transportation operations support vehicles. 16 are capital projects, and 14 are used by all the other TriMet departments, and 7 are what you might call pool cars used by staff that can be scheduled as needed. So those are 230 vehicles all in all. Obviously, one of the key things that were deferred during the Great Recession and our other shorter budget periods were the replacement of these vehicles. That has led to a situation where those that we are asking to be replaced here are an average age of 16 and a half years and an average of 144,000 miles. So, and I would note, those are not freeway miles. They might be one owner, but don't know. I would just also note that we do maintain these vehicles ourselves in our non-revenue shop, so there is an advantage to having them come from one manufacturer in terms of both some parts and supports and other things that we related to that. And we did, an evaluation found that the Ford vehicles were the most adaptable for our use and met our needs in the best way. So with that and using the state purchase agreement, which you know governments can do, to piggyback on the bidding opportunities that have already, the state has already done, we then offered four dealerships, if you will, in our area, the opportunity to bid on this contract. And they actually came in under the state purchase agreement. The lowest price was Suburban Auto Group, $1.1 million. And again, these were all for dealerships, from the dealerships were all for 2014 model year, equipped as we specified. And again, I think that this is just another of the recapitalization that we had deferred during the Great Recession. And again, something that we need to do to keep our fleet operating and in good stead. So with that, certainly others of us are probably quite able to answer the questions if you should have any, but recommend approval this time.
Questions? Yes, sir. Mr. General Manager, I just have one question, I think, as I look at this. It is the sub piece that says the other 6 specialized vehicles are being procured separately. What are those 6 specialized quote-unquote vehicles?
So I would need a little help from Tom Nielsen, if you could ask.
Mr. President, Board, to the question, there's a couple of large bucket trucks for servicing the overhead catenary wires. There is one other larger truck for maintenance of way to get larger equipment and larger parts to the work sites. And then there's, I'm sorry, but I don't remember the other couple. But they're bigger trucks, typically have 20-year life, 25-year life. Haven't been replaced in a long time.
Thank you.
And you, yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you and the mechanics for keeping things going. Hope you didn't run out of duct tape and wire.
No, we always have a big supply of that.
But they always look good. And on those other 6, I believe they can be purchased here locally?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And may I?
Please, yes.
One of my other hats, I'm on the, have you or Neil looked into vehicles, vans, using compressed natural gas or EV?
We have looked into that, looking mostly at retrofit. And the fleets that we wanted to do were our Ford Escorts and our Chevrolet Equinox units. And they've not been able to get certification from the manufacturers to convert those. So we're sitting waiting for them to get that, and then we're prepared to move forward. Now we'll look at newer versions. We're finding, we could order a 1-2 kind of a situation early on to test, but I would much rather retrofit a fleet or 10 or 20 to give us a better idea if this really is a cost-effective measure.
Yeah, you might want to talk to Frito-Lay, and then also there's I want to say Home Depot, but there's a fleet of trucks that using the Smith electrical battery system that are in place here in Portland. And I forget.
Staples.
My assistant says Staples.
Okay.
Unpaid, yeah.
No.
Just FYI.
Yeah, no, we're always
I wear a
kind
couple
of,
other hats. so-
we're always staying, kind of on top of that technology and looking to find a viable way to get into it.
This is Portland, not other places in the country.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you.
Other questions?
One more further, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
Mike. Any of these vehicles coming, will there be any hybrids in them?
No.
Just all straight standard? Okay.
Right, do I see any other questions? Is the board ready to make a motion to approve Resolution 13-10-62?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second over here. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-10-62, which is authorizing the contract with Suburban Auto Group for the purchase of replacement service support vehicles, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for answering the questions. Let's move on then to Resolution 13-10-63, which is authorizing contracts with IBI Group and CH2M Hill Inc., a corporation of Florida, for engineering services for the Southwest Corridor Transit Project. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Board President, first of all, we've had a chance to brief you in the past on the work that Metro is leading on the Southwest Corridor project. I should note that there is a next phase of work that we're beginning to enter. Metro remains the lead agency with that, and will be actually funding this work that is proposed in front of you right now through an intergovernmental agreement. So those funds will come from Metro to us to do this work. Traditionally, the roles is that Metro leads the planning work, environmental work, but we do the engineering work that sort of undergirds all of that analysis that is underway, that will be underway, that Metro will manage as well. And in that regard, you might note that we've got a lot of work underway in our engineering unit right now related to the Portland-Milwaukee project and other efforts underway that we'll get to even further in the agenda. So we've identified that in order to meet the timelines associated with the Southwest Corridor project, we do need some outside assistance. And we think that also has the advantage of bringing some fresh eyes to the projects, some people who've worked in some other marketplaces and seen some work in other cities and regions to again assist us with the engineering work. The work consists of beginning to do the more conceptual alignments, if you will, conceptual engineering alignments of both the bus rapid transit alternative as well as light rail alternatives. There are a number, if you remember the maps, a number of spaghetti still on the lot map in terms of alternative alignments that will be looked at, evaluated and priced as we move forward. This will also be done, of course, in very close coordination with local jurisdictions who participate in the study overall. We did have an RFP process for this and had a number of firms participate in that and those selection processes. Again, the recommendation is IBI Group related to the bus rapid transit portion of the work and CH2M Hill related to the light rail portions of the work. Just again to note that this work would be funded by intergovernmental agreement for Metro, so again, it's not Tri-Met general funds of fund this time. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but recommend your approval.
Any questions on this?
Not so much a question as a caution. It says that each of these firms have agreed to consider use of DBE sub-consultants if appropriate. That gives me trouble. Looking back over history, organizations or companies, when it comes to that, can say, I consider, but really don't do any work or put any forth any effort in trying to do that. So I would hope that, I don't want to just pull this contract, but I would hope that these two companies will not just give some light consideration and that we don't get a report back that they did the whole job and they didn't have any DBE or MBE participation at all in terms of doing that.
You have my commitment that we will do that. I'll hold their feet to the fire.
Maybe I just follow up on that. Maybe sometime as we move on to this project, you can just give us a report.
Absolutely.
On essentially their utilization, how they're doing, okay? And they'll answer any of those questions. Thank you. And again, for the members of the audience, the Southwest Corridor study really did narrow the alternatives for major transit investments in these two alternatives. So it is really important to secure good engineering and cost information on these, so that the region can actually make informed decisions on what the correct alternative should be in this particular corridor. So this is, I look forward to seeing the work and the results of this work as it's completed. So, good piece of work. Looking forward to this. Is the board feeling comfortable with making a motion to approve Resolution 13-10-63?
One more.
Yes.
Neil, IDI is whom?
So in terms of the individual, I'd have to look for, sorry.
Sorry, I'm not sure I heard the question. Could you say that again?
Who was IDI?
Well, it's a design and engineering firm that has an office here in Portland, and the staff person they've identified is somebody who works out of Portland.
Have they been working right with you?
Yeah, the idea is that they'd be actually doing most of their work within the TriMet offices, so that we have very close supervision over them.
Good question. Okay, do I see a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion to approve Resolution 13-10-63.
Second.
Right here, I have a second. Director Prosser. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, then all those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-10-63, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Moving on then to Resolution 13-10-64, which is a resolution authorizing a contract with Brown Contracting, Inc. for the construction manager / general contractor services for the Sunset Transit Center platform paving replacement project.
Yes, Mr. Board President, members of the board, we're doing a lot of work today. I appreciate your patience going through all of these. But to a large extent, these result from the approvals that you provided in the budget last year. And now, of course, we're actually beginning to contract for that work that is important. And this and the following resolution really deal with what we call the state of good repair of our existing facilities. At the Sunset Transit Center, you might recall that we have some failure of our pavers, which means that they're uneven surfaces, and if it were let to continue, we would have an unsafe situation. You might recall that you approved this contract to be awarded as a CM, construction manager / general contractor, CMGC style contract, I believe at your June meeting. Since that time, we've gone through the contest of actually soliciting proposals and pricing from contractors to actually perform that work. You'll note in your report we actually received 2 proposals related to this. Both firms that are well-known and do very good work. The recommendation to you is to award the contract to Brown based on both the experiences as well as the pricing that was submitted. Recall the overall contract will be in the amount of about $1.1 million, 1.150 total. But again, we award this contract with limited notice to proceed. So we first do the pre-construction services and then we price the overall contract and award the contract after the design is done and the construction planning has been done. And just to note that the reason, again, for this style contract award is that we are working in a very busy transit center that's, I believe, 14 to 17 feet below the grade surface in a very constrained space. And so it's going to take enormous planning and very detailed planning for the contractor to get this work done with minimal impacts to our operations and our customers who will continue to use the space over this period of time. So it's a complicated piece of work, not so much in terms of the work to be done from a physical standpoint, but its access and its the conflicting need to keep access open for our customers. So with that, we'd recommend your approval.
We have some questions?
Can I, when it's appropriate, and the subs list has been chosen, if I can get a list of those?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Of course, here in the document it says electrical subcontract, so my little eyes light up.
And of course, the way these CMGC contracts are awarded is that once the design is done and the construction plan is, then they will solicit sub-bids from various contractors. So once that's available, we're happy to share that.
Please.
So normally when we're reviewing these proposals, I get a high level of confidence based on kind of the scoring that goes on. This is one that I probably have the least amount of confidence in. Were there just not, I mean, nothing against Braun, is that Wildish? Wildish. But, I mean, this, basically, as you look across these scores, possible points 20, 10 was the highest between both of these organizations. 17.5 compared to a possible points of 35. Do we just, I mean, is this so specialty in its nature that no one really has the background of working in this type of construction project here in the region?
I'll let Sean, Dan.
I was just trying to get
respond
Dan up here. He'd been there all day. You look so comfortable back there.
I'm getting tired of talking. So.
Almost out of here.
Well, good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. Actually, I asked that very same question myself as this was coming up through the process. And the answer really is how the individual evaluation committee interpreted the guidance they were given. So the way these are done, there's different ratings that the committee assigns to each category: superior, excellent, very good, good, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a definition of each one. Things like meets most of the requirements of the proposal, or meets and exceeds requirements, and so forth. And then they translate those qualitative wordings into points, and that's how the points are assigned. And this one was just low because the committee, that particular committee, and each one is a little different, interpreted the words in a very literal sense, that the only way you could get above good or average was to have more than what we asked for. And so the scores just ran low. It's strictly related to how that particular committee applied the scoring criteria.
So you don't have any concern that the quality of the work will be less than great?
Not at all. We know both
Okay.
these firms. I'm not sure about Brown, because Brown's done work for us before. I know Wildish has, so we have complete confidence in their ability to complete the work.
All right, thank you.
Just a comment, maybe in the future we can discuss this with policy and everything else, but I would like to see the face of somebody, representative from the company here when it's being approved over a certain threshold, a dollar amount. That's convenient, or we can talk about that.
We can look into that.
So we have to give somebody a hard time. It isn't Dan.
No, we like to give Dan a hard
No,
time.
I just want to.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
All right, so we have a recommendation from the staff and a resolution, 13-10-64. Is there a motion then to approve the resolution presented before us this morning?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Further discussion on this? Again, I think you've done a good job of seeking qualified folks, and I think both of them are very qualified. Again, Dr. Bethel didn't bring it up, but I think this is another one where maybe a report, when we get down to having those subcontractors selected, maybe just how the prime did in terms of securing, DBE, minority-owned businesses, subcontractors would be helpful to understand. Okay, that's my only comment on this one. All right, with that, all those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-10-64, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next motion, or next resolution then is Resolution 13-10-65, which is a resolution authorizing a contract with Stacy and Whitbeck Incorporated for the construction manager / general contractor services for the existing light rail track rehabilitation project.
Again, Mr. Board President, members of the board, as noted, we do have a number of places in our particularly east side alignment that have worn track, need to be replaced over the next 5 years, and our capital improvement program includes the funding necessary to do that. Again, based on your approval in May of this year, we solicited contract proposals for a CDM/GC style contract for this. Again, flexible services that would be awarded over a period of time, and actually this contract is proposed to be a 5-year period, where we would order we would issue task orders related to the various track replacements. We've attached some maps that begin to show the critical areas where we know we have some additional work to do along our key alignments over the next few years. And so what we would be doing is doing the final design with the contractor's help and input, and then beginning to plan the construction sequence. And again, just like the Sunset Transit Center, perhaps even more critically, these are areas where we need to really minimize the duration of the shutdown necessary during the replacement of this rail to keep our service running for our customers. And so we think the CMGC approach has a particular wise application here in that regard. We did not receive more than one we did receive just one response to this proposal. Stacy and Whitbeck, but as you know, this is their core business in terms of urban track construction and light rail track construction, so they're incredibly well qualified for that. We have no issues there. We did review the pricing of the proposals that came in and felt that it was very much in line with what we normally see in the marketplace. So with that, we do recommend approval. I would also note that their performance, Stacy and Whitbeck's performance of the other contracts that we had have been very superior. So again, we've had great confidence in this contractor and the work that they'll be able to perform. I recommend your approval, or certainly able to answer any questions.
See if there's any questions, comments. Yeah. Just got a quick one. Oh, go ahead.
Well, no.
I think he's deferring to you.
So it was part of this rehabilitation. Are we funding the whole thing, or is that part of our grant request to the FDA or whatever the organization is?
So we are essentially funding it, but I would tell you that one of the funding sources, the major funding source, is the State of Good Repair grant funds that come to us via formula.
Correct.
And that formula, those formulas are generally, for example, protected right now from the sequester because they're coming out of the Highway Trust Fund at the federal level. So we have pretty good assurance that these funds will continue.
Excellent, thank you.
Good enough. I'm not seeing anything. Then do I have a motion to approve a resolution 13-10-65?
Move to approve.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve resolution 13-10-65, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. Okay, last but not least is
One thing, but, you know, I just don't let me forget to follow up about something on that one deal. This one thing. There's only one bid, and which it's a very small universe of contractors. But I'm just curious about something else. Oh, good.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, the last resolution is 13-10-66, which is authorizing a modification to the contract with Stacy and Whitbeck Incorporated for construction manager / general contractor services for the east segment of the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. Mr. General Manager.
Yes, Mr. Board Member, members of the board, this contract would add funds to the existing contract we have for the east construction contract of the Portland-Milwaukee project. Let me, if you will, describe very generally the three categories of additional funding and work that would be added to the contract at this time. One is betterments, and whenever we do these large contracts, we essentially have agreements with our local governmental partners to do other work that is their work in the vicinity of the project. Things like sometimes it's sewer replacement, sometimes it's roadway reconstruction, sometimes it's sidewalk work that It's not part of the actual project. And so there's a great convenience to the public and to the jurisdictions to be able to do this work all at once in one fell swoop. But again, the jurisdictions do pay for that additional work, and we pass that cost on to them. So there is some additional work that has been asked for us to perform on the east segment. Again, this really runs from Almsey all the way to the Oak Grove terminus of the alignment. That totals about an additional $3 million of requests that would be funded by this action. Second is other project elements that did not have a separate contract assigned to them. And these were to a large extent elements that were still in design, that we still had to work out some agreements with and understandings with some of our partners on. So they were not originally part of the price. They were part of the budget of the project, but not part of the contract itself. In this case, we have a number of elements that are noted in your staff report. It does include some demolition work, some of the sustainability elements of the project, some transit-oriented development, site preparation, moving together experiences. All of these were part of the overall project budget, but not assigned to this contract. At this point in time, we're in a position where we think this is the most efficient mechanism to actually accomplish these works. So we would assign these additional scope items to this contractor. And again, that would be an additional request of approximately $2.8 million, all funded from the project budget and all within the project budget. And then finally, the third part is contaminated media testing and disposal, or as I like to call it, dirty dirt, which is that as we excavated various parts of the alignment, we found that much more of the soil that was excavated needed special handling than was originally anticipated. As noted in here, what we found in certain segments is that really essentially all the material that we excavated needed to be handled in a special way, which is more costly. In other areas where we had previously anticipated none, we did find some additional contaminated soil. Recognizing that, the contract actually sets up unit pricing for this so that we know that if they run across this, there was a certain allowance built in, but if it exceeded the allowance, then we would need to pay at that unit price associated with this. And so that is also an additional $2 million. So that totals to, with a little additional change order allowance for some of this work, a total request here of about $8.1 million associated with this contract. Again, the contaminated media and the transfer of project elements do come from the project budget and are within the project budget overall. The betterments, of course, comes from the jurisdiction that requests the benefits. So that would create a total contract value of a little over $300 million for that overall length of work. So I know that's a little bit of complication to that. Dan or others would be able to answer, I think, detailed questions. Certainly be happy to have those, but I do recommend approval.
Some questions? I only want to get Dan back up here. Just to ask him some good questions. Comments?
Well, I mean, it appears that the majority of this is pretty straightforward. The betterments, we can certainly understand, and that's something that's going to be, I shouldn't say compensated for, but reimbursed for based on, so we certainly understand that. The transfer project elements, those are things that we've already have in the contract. We're just, we're just basically approving them at this point, knowing that those already exist. The contaminated media question testing is really the outlier here, as opposed to the other items being something that's pretty straightforward. And we've talked about some of this stuff previously, and so we certainly understand kind of the perspective of this being a risk item that exists whenever you start to move dirt. This comes up in a project of this size. So I don't see anything really in regards to what we're looking at here that would be, I think, outside of the scope that would require a bunch of explanation and a bunch of additional insight, at least from my perspective. So.
So you're feeling comfortable?
No.
I'm feeling comfortable.
And just to be clear, this is all coming out of the federal money, nothing is coming out of the
That's true for the transfer project elements and the contaminated media, the betterments,
That's
various
IGA.
sources from the local governments.
Okay. So is that coming out operating buses?
No. Thank you.
And again, following up on Director Stovall's comments, the light rail sustainability program, are those all costs that you had originally envisioned?
Yes.
being this? Okay, so this is just doing the work that we wanted to have done in the first place. Right. Okay. All right. Other questions? All right then. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 13-10-66?
So moved.
A motion? Second. I have a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor then of the motion to approve Resolution 13-10-66, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, the motion is approved unanimously. I believe that brings us to the end of our business items today. Does the board know of any other items we need to take up today as business items?
One other thing, it's not really a business item, but since this is our general counsel's last meeting, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you, for all that you've done here and all your hard work. As a new board member, I quickly found I could rely on your advice and counsel. I love your sense of humor. You're a joy to work with. As I did have the opportunity to tell her a little bit earlier that I'm very upset that she's leaving, but I'm also very happy that you've got such a great opportunity. So thank you for everything.
Second.
Third? All right, thank you. Well, with that, then I'm going to adjourn the business meeting and we'll go into the public forum. Mr. Rand, did you have something else you wanted to say? Okay, all right. All right, then with that, go ahead.
It's break time.
Why don't we take a 10-minute break here and come back to the public forum? I will point out one of the board members needs to leave at 11:40, so we're going to apologize for that now. But we do have 10 people who signed up and want to testify in public forum. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back here 11:28 or so by that clock back there, okay? Oh, drink one.